here with us today. Thank you for joining us in this journey, in this series of the Parent-Adolescent project. For the ones who have been following us in this space, we have been talking about how to parent adolescents. And we know since it doesn't come with a handbook, there are constant conversations, right? So we've talked about how to help adolescents go back to school, since it's starting again, now this year after so many months of break. We talked about positive parenting last week. And this week, I'm absolutely delighted to have Mr. Manoj Shettigar from Ashoka, India with us today. So before we jump in and talk about the superpowers of parenting, I want to tell everyone a little bit about Manoj. So other than, of course, being a parent, he has over 20 years of experience in leadership and development in the social development sector. And he's currently the CEO of Ashoka, South Asia. And I know that outside of this, he's worked with several organizations that focus on children. So he has vast exposure to issues that adolescents face, as well as, at home being a parent himself, right? So that's a little bit about Manoj. And thank you for joining us today here. But one of the really important things that I must mention before we go on is he has recently authored a book, right, called Parenting Superpowers. And I'm very excited to know more about the book. So over to you, Manoj. Just tell us, a little bit about your ideas in the book.
Yeah, so thank you, Devashmita, for having me here. It's a pleasure being with Mana, and because I've known Mana as we've been professionally involved with Mana and the work that they do. And regarding my book and my project, firstly, I think I'll put a disclaimer out here saying that, humbly submit that I'm not a professional parenting coach. Okay, and at the same time, I don't come with any specific degrees in parenting or in I would say psychology. But what has enabled me in this journey is basically my learning and my quest for understanding parenting, because as you said, it does not come with a manual, and it's an on the job, and we are in every moment of life we are trying to grapple with the challenges, and there are new challenges coming. So obviously in that journey, something parenting stood out for me, and it helped me to get into this. And this book is nothing but, I would say, my own experiences, my experiential learning on parenting. And as I progressed in this journey and amidst the various challenges, somewhere it brought out some essence of my learnings. And I think two important things which I would say the book covers is, number one is that we as parents are creating an environment for our children in which they can actually excel, and that providing that environment is basically what we can do as parents. And conventionally, I think what parenting was all about, or is all about, is trying to fix the child or get the child to do certain things, which is really good. But somewhere I understood that it's got to do more with that, and it's got to do more with us as a parent. So one is basically the environment that we provide for the children, and second is basically our own perception on parenting, because many a times it's like if you're having a lens, and if that lens is actually blurred, then probably you look at every element of your life with that blurred vision. But the moment you change your perspectives of the way you look at your child, then the world changes, and even the child would show up in a different way. So keeping these two elements in mind, I think this book was created, and then obviously the superpowers, and what are these superpowers, and yeah, that's about the book very briefly.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. I think, you're being very humble when you're saying that it's based just on your experiences. I know that there's a lot of research backing the things that you are saying in the book as well, right? So there is also extensive studying that has gone into the book. And I believe that, we write books for reasons which are deeper than something that is just needs to be said, right? So I want you to share a little bit about what inspired you to write the book.
Great, yeah. So I would start by saying that a book is there inside everybody. So everyone has got their own stories, their own learnings, their own struggles, their own victories. Some might put it in form of a book, but even if it's not put into a form of a book, it comes out through us as an experience. And I guess children are the best people to actually implement those learnings of ourselves. So, this book, the idea of the book came with my journey of parenting, because I mean, typically, like when we were ready for parenting, I mean, there was like in the first case, there was basically a small miscarriage, and therefore, like there was an anxiety of, oh, now what happened? So that was the first, and then the second one was more about, oh, I mean, we were waiting for the child to come, and then he came quickly. I mean, it was a premature delivery, and obviously, I mean, things were good in terms of, yeah, I mean, it was a healthy child. But later on, also what we realized is that somewhere down the line, he was actually missing out on his development milestones, and therefore he was lagging behind. And that gave a concern. That gave a concern to us in terms of, what do we do, and Amit's visit to various temples and various mannat and all that stuff. Parallelly, also what happened is that my social entrepreneurship, which I ventured into, was not doing well, and it crashed out. And during that, I think, phase of life, it was more of a self introspection and a self reflection, a journey of inner discovery, which had a lot of learnings, and it changed my outlook towards life in different ways, and that included parenting. Yeah, so that's about it.
Right. Well, those are some intense experiences to have gone through, right? And I think it takes great generosity to take your own journey and try to churn something out that can help others. So I think we can't thank you enough for that. But, as I was listening to that, I was wondering that as a parent, when we go through these challenges, I mean, I have a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old at home. We often don't know whom to turn to, because the challenges of parenting have changed since the previous generation. So sometimes I feel, advice from that generation may not be the best suited for us. At the same time, in your own generation, everyone seems to be struggling. So you don't know whom to turn to, right? So whom did you turn to when you needed advice, or you were struggling, in the ways that you mentioned? Professionals or friends or guides, mentors, just a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because many a times, when we are in our lows, we shut the doors, and we try to, in a way, fight against those struggles. But I think that's the time you really need to open yourself to talk to people, mentors, and even if you don't have access to that, thanks to the internet and the knowledge that is available, at least it has some doors to open, and obviously books. So the avenues are there, but I think it's more about, as a person, you need to take the first step to reach out to somebody for help. And I guess when there are organizations like Mana and all, who are actually into this work, it's that I would say that is a shortcut, because otherwise what happened with me was a journey of of self-discovery, a journey of actually going through the highs and lows. I had my own learnings, but if I have to look back, and if there was a mentor who could actually guide me through that phase, I think that would have been even more facilitative. But having said that, generally people in that phase don't reach out, and I would say my advice is that at least start looking out, because again, what happens, we are looking at life through a certain belief system, a certain lens.
True.
And we are therefore stuck in that, and unless we change the way we look at things, the things we look at won't change. I mean, that's a Wayne Dyer quote, and yeah, that's what led me to look differently at these things.
Right. I think what I'm hearing you say is that you can do this yourself, reading and researching and all of that, but it's probably easier to reach out to professionals, to reach out to mentors and coaches, because that's the shorter cut. And I think one of the things we need is reassurance, is just a little bit of emotional support as a parent, that, hey, you're fine, we got you. So yeah, I think that's a very helpful nugget of advice there. One thing that comes to my mind is that, when I'm a therapist, right? So in my practice, when I'm talking to people, more often than not, we end up talking about things that have happened in childhood. Parenting that could have been better, sometimes disciplining gone wrong, sometimes neglect, and all these things that happen in childhood, and especially through parents, because they have so much influence over the child's life. Yet, um, when I was teaching, I saw so many of my students, high school, 12th grade, and even undergraduate students saying that, we don't have support from our parents to go get help, to reach out to therapies. So from the parents' perspective, where does that gap come from? When you know that what is happening right now can influence your child profoundly, but somehow you resist the idea that your child could get help from a professional, especially when it comes to their mental well-being.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very pertinent question, especially because, I mean, generally a parent has gone through their own life in terms of their upbringing, they've grown up. And somewhere, the moment you become a parent, there is a assumption saying that you know it. I mean, you get conferred the degree of parenting just like that. And I guess somewhere, because as parenting is not taught in curriculum, or not just parenting, any relationships is not, it's always somewhere you do it yourself and you feel you are the boss of that because you're just watching life from your angle. So I guess the biggest challenge is that the world is changing drastically. The variables are changing out, and the pandemic has shown us that how quickly things can change. So when there is so much change happening outside, I think it really, in a way, needs for us to relook at our own things and saying that, am I moving with change? Because when I resist that change, and I'm still stuck with my own patterns of understanding how parenting works, that's where the mismatch happens. And I think the biggest thing for parents right now would be just to be open that, okay, you may have developed a great parenting method because of your upbringing and your understanding of the world, but there are so many other alternate methods which you can actually look at in the interest of your child. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I think that's so important, what you just talked about. One is recognizing that there is so much change happening around us, and being open to move with that change, being open to learn even as a parent, because I think there is also a lot of pride that comes with, I know my child best and I know what's best for my child. So sometimes even the need of a child to get professional help, like older children can articulate, that, okay, I need to see someone. Nowadays, 17-year-old, 16, very vocal, right? They'll say, I need to talk to a counselor, but it could be seen as rejection by the parent. It could
Yes.
seem like, why can't you talk to me? Why, why can somebody else help you better than I can? So it's important to just go with times and be open to learning about parenting, right?
Yes, very, very true. Very true. In fact, the thing is that even children are at that adolescent age. There is a change in so many things, and which is a hormonal change. So many things now. When they are changing and when the attitude towards life is changing, obviously we can't stick to the same parenting method which we did when they were a kid. So I think we'll have to take all this into cognizance and be a more aware parent in terms of, what is that my child needs and what am I providing, and it's okay to ask for help. I mean, it's absolutely okay. As you said, there is that pride happening, and which I also call this as the parental ego that comes into picture, saying that I am right and therefore why do you have to go, and the moment you seek help, you're seen as someone who's a failure or who's vulnerable, and these stigmas is something which they want to avoid. But I guess in the interest of a child, it's better to be open and vulnerable. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think it's, as long as the focus is on the child and whatever the child needs, then I think we'll have our compass pointing in the right direction. So when it comes to all of this, I can't help but ask, and I know, people, please go read the book, but what are some of the superpowers according to you?
Yeah.
Right. Also, before we jump into that, I just want to let everyone who's watching us here today that please feel free to drop your questions or thoughts in the chat box. If you're watching us live, drop your questions on the Facebook chat, and everyone else, just drop your questions in the chat box, and we'll answer them as we go. Thank you.
Okay. So I think as children, we are fascinated with superheroes and superpowers. And even I would say in our own upbringing, we've seen how gods have the superpowers. And then we have seen the Spider-Mans and the Supermans. And there's always a fantasy of we having those superpowers. And and obviously, when I coined this book as Awaken Your Parenting Superpowers, my realization was that indeed we do have superpowers, because if we are the extension of that divine intelligence, and if we are such a unique creation of of God, or just you can say natural intelligence, then obviously we have got certain qualities of that. The only thing is that these superpowers don't come with a label. They come in a very subtle way, and I would say that as simple as the words that we speak. Now, our words can be a superpower, because I mean, our words can move mountains, and great leaders have been able to move societies and countries, and therefore there's so much power in those words. And forget that, like, even if we use the power of those words effectively with our children and the way we communicate, obviously that's a superpower. Okay. And where do those words come from? Those come from our thought factory, our brain, our mind. And obviously there are so many thoughts running out there. And just imagine that if you look at even a simple thought, our thoughts as superpower, because at the end of the day, why has human civilization moved so fast? And if you read that book, Sapiens, it talks about that the human beings had something very, very specific about them to organize themselves, to think,
right.
to imagine, to look at beyond the existing problems. And now that's just nothing but a superpower of your thinking and your imagination. And if we are able to utilize that superpowers in the right direction of upbringing our child, then obviously that becomes our superpower. And then the third one I would say is basically our own energies, because we don't realize that, and even quantum physics is saying that at the end of the day, we might be physical bodies, but then we are energy systems, and eventually we are always emitting energy out and receiving energy. So therefore, if we are able to align our energies in a positive way, we can actually influence the circle around us. And the best people who can be influenced is our immediate family members and our children, which we often ignore. And the flip side of the superpowers is like it can work in your favor, or it can work against you. It's a double-edged sword. If we think positively, we think happy for our children, we can change. But if we think negatively, then obviously we are rubbing off a negativity into our children. So therefore, so that is the superpowers that we have got, and we must choose to decide how we use that, because that's in our hand.
Right. I think in the whole, the analogy of superpowers is such that all the superheroes, they discover their superpower. They don't come with the knowledge that, oh, I have this, right? And along the same lines as you were saying, and this is so beautifully put, like words, thoughts, and energy are the three superpowers we have to change the environment around us and influence whatever we want to influence. But how do you discover that superpower? How do you realize that, okay, my words and my thoughts, what kind of thoughts? And as you said, it can go wrong as well, right? I think all the villains are also superheroes just gone off track. So how do you know that? How do you pay attention to that?
Okay, so one is, I mean, even if you look at a scientific evaluation of what I've told, the words or the thoughts. Okay, if you look at it, basically, a thought is nothing but an electrical impulse, which actually can be measured. And at the same time, even your feelings, basically, depending on how positive or negative your feelings are, you are actually radiating a magnetic energy around yourself. So, I mean, there's a lot of work gone even from that angle to prove that these are not just concepts. Now there is work done to do that. Now the thing is that eventually, as you said, that if we are unaware, we are ignorant, then we might use our superpowers in a very automatic way. And when I say automatic, it actually, I want to bring to light our subconscious mind, because what happens is
Mm.
that most of us operate from our subconscious, and it's a proven fact that 95% of what we
Yes.
do think is our subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is an automatic program. So what happens is all concepts, all the models that we have created about various things in life, be it work, be it parenting, be it relationship, be it wealth, be it health, anything, are basically nothing but programs running in our mind. And
Mm-hmm.
unless we are not able to look at these programs and find out whether it's really working in my favor, uh, that's the time. The first, I would say, step is this awareness and realization that, hey, what am I thinking, and is it really helping me? Because one thing is, as human beings, we can understand that we feel depleted, we feel low, and
Mm.
uh, and that's a direct, I would say, a direct result of something happening inside our system. and
Mm-hmm.
and the other side is that, whenever we are happy, I
Mm.
think the energy just radiates out, and we can feel happiness around. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously you'll have to check yourself and ask yourself, if I am not doing anything, and if I'm thinking, what are the thoughts that's normally coming to my mind? And if
Mm-hmm.
it's coming regularly, that means that is a part of your subconscious program. And unless we are able to change that,
Mm.
okay, we can do wonders. And that includes parenting also, because if I'm looking at parenting as a job that I have to fix my child, I have to make him best, I have to put him in the rat race where he has to
Mm.
first get flying grades and good marks, and then get a good job, and then get
Yeah.
settled, and then get married. I mean, that the cycle will just continue. But the other thing is, if we take a step back and look and figure out, I mean, people who've probably not even studied well have done well. So there are different ways to be, I would say, successful. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the sheer awareness that these superpowers exist in us, and currently in what state are they operating, could be the starting point.
Absolutely. I think even in therapy, or when we are in sessions in counseling, I think the starting point is always awareness, right?
Yeah,
But while you were talking about this, I was thinking that thoughts and energy are more like systems that are within us.
yeah,
So there is, let's just say that there is time before they manifest into something outward, which would be words and actions,
yeah,
right? But sometimes words are the most difficult, I find, to be aware of, because they could mean differently to different people. They could, the tone could mean something completely different, right?
yeah,
And I feel that as a result of our own upbringing, as a result of what we have learned to normalize growing up, we have probably normalized certain things. So I could be aware. I mean, the problem that I'm really trying to highlight here is that I could be aware of what I'm saying, but I could be unaware of the impact that it has on someone.
yeah, correct.
And again, there's like that gap in my mind. So I don't know
Yeah,
what do you say about that in the book?
true, true. So I think the one thing is, we say something assuming that the other person is getting what we are saying. Now,
Exactly.
if you, and probably when we speak with children, we are speaking from our maturity of so many years of having seen life. But the thing is that when we scold at them, and when I say when we, I include myself also, because there is nothing called perfection, but at the same time, being aware is important. So when we
Mm-hmm.
scold at them, we assume that they will get it. But the thing
Mm-hmm.
is, their journey of life is very small, and to expect that they are able to get it, now what we have been, what the ages that we have lived, I think that's a mismatch. So I would say, just being conscious of ourselves, like, it's not more about what I communicate, but it's more about what the person receives on the other side. And if I'm
Mm.
mindful of that part, at least, I mean, I will be a little more aware, and I will be a little more choosy about what I speak. Because the thing
Mm-hmm.
is, as you said, when there's a trigger, the words will just blast out, and that's all already a program running within us, and the words are just
Right.
thrown out. But a pause between that, just to take
Right.
stock of the situation, I think can make a
Mm.
big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I'm to just summarize this bit, it's like we can watch our own energy and our own thoughts by just asking ourselves the question, okay, how am I feeling right now? What is going on in my mind? At the same time, when we are engaging with others, we probably need to be a little vigilant of the impact it's having on us. I mean, that evidence is right before us, right? We can easily pick up on that. And maybe instead of forcefully sort of saying that, oh, I didn't mean it that way, but maybe prioritize the impact it's having, not the intent you came from. And that will give you a very clear picture of what's happening out there, right? I mean, that's what I
Right.
understood.
Very true. Very true.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that even if those words have come out and if it did not reach the way it was supposed to reach, I think there's
Mm-hmm.
also that, after that, how do I evaluate that situation? How can I take stock of that? Because many a
Mm-hmm.
times the words are out there and the impact has been created on the child. And
Mm-hmm.
then we assume that the chapter is closed, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
closed. The wounds have opened up. So
Right.
we can
Right.
still, in a way, corrective, post correctively try to manage that situation
Mm.
later on also, if you already made the mistake. So, I mean, there is always,
Right.
hope in case of, before or after scenario.
Right, right. I think we have a question that ties into that. So someone's asking that, when we talk about knowing your thoughts, there's so much of the subconscious involved there, right? And that would involve biases and our own attitudes and things like that. So, I mean, how does one become aware of all of that? Because essentially it's subconscious, right? We may not have access to it.
Correct. So the second part of my book, I've talked about the tools, the super tools
Mm.
of actually enhancing this superpowers of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that the first thing is, I mean, we are aware, okay, that there has to be a change, but it's a constant practice. So when I'm talking about tools like even gratitude, or tools like even in a meditation, what I'm
Mm.
saying is that the programming has already been set into us, and it's no fault of us, it's already been set. But the question is, the first thing is to identify what is this programming, because we might not be able to identify because it's very unconsciously happening, but the results that is showing us is going to tell us some hints about, for example, if I'm bursting out at my kid for something, I mean, he triggers me, so probably I might not understand what's going in my mind, but that bursting out is giving me a hint that why is this happening. And I think the entire I would say exercise of looking within, in
Mm.
terms of where is this, I mean, because the thing is, where there's a trigger, it means there is a need for a healing. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, why is that trigger happening? Where am I what are those things? And I might not be
Mm-hmm.
able to identify if it's happened in my childhood, and that's
Mm.
fine. But at least that fact that this is triggering me somewhere, it needs my
Mm-hmm.
healing. So how do I overcome that? And some of these tools, like gratitude, because what happens is that as human beings, we are wired for survival and safety, and therefore
Mm.
we are always looking at what's not going to work, and where is the
Mm.
problem. But
Mm-hmm.
when we bring something like a gratitude exercise, we are
Mm-hmm.
also in a way saying that life is also happening good, and therefore it is in a
Right.
way, I would say, uh, reducing the impact of the so-called negativity. And when
Right.
we meditate, for example, we come to a situation where we blank out our mind, and in that blank phase, you can take a look at your life from a, I would say, an observer perspective, and you're actually able to observe your own self and the mistakes that you have done. So I think
Mm-hmm.
these tools are very important for you to discern between these thoughts that are negative or are not working in your favor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's, again, very, very well articulated. So there are these tools, and they can help bring the insight that is essential for, knowing what your thoughts are, and to basically engage with those superpowers and use them well.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about these tools, gratitude, affirmation, imagination, meditation, right?
Yeah.
How can parents especially use them? And, when do you start? How do you use it? Do
Okay.
you do it yourself? Do you do it with your children? How should one do that?
Yeah. So from whatever trial and error I have done and what I've learned, I think
Mm-hmm.
it begins with you first, because you are always the starting point. And even when I say gratitude, I mean, there is a spiritual, an application of gratitude where we are actually, it's a Thanksgiving. We are saying, we are praying
Right.
to God, and that's one thing. But if you look at even the scientific aspect of gratitude, you're actually in a way strengthening or wiring those things in your brain, and which is making which is increasing your energy levels. So
Absolutely.
obviously, yeah. So obviously, when you're grateful for a lot of those circumstances in your life, and when you look at life from that balance, then
Mm.
you're able to, then the sting of the negativity or the bad event is reduced. And even what gratitude does is that it actually focuses or makes your mind focus on the good things, because
Right.
by
Right.
nature human beings are prone to look at not so good things happening. But when you're grateful,
Mm.
you're now refocusing your mind to look at the good things. So when you're looking at a child, and though there may be certain issues, but when you're looking at the good things that about the child, when you're grateful for the joy that child gets in your life, when you're grateful for the beautiful moments, then somewhere you're rewiring your brain to look at
Absolutely.
positivity. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much neurobiological evidence that says gratitude actually rewires your brain towards a more positive emotional orientation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Tell us more about affirmations. I think
Yeah.
affirmations is a word which is so commonly used now that it's kind of lost its
Hmm.
significance, and most of us don't really understand what affirmations could do, or how to even use them properly. So if you could, um, throw
Hmm.
some light on that.
Sure.
And also
So
imagination. Like I'm,
yeah.
I'm very curious to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So the five super tools I've talked about in the book is that we begin with gratitude, because that's going to, in a way,
Mm-hmm.
make your mind look at things which is also positive and good. And once you
Mm-hmm.
do that, and when you set yourself to meditation, you're basically
Mm-hmm.
blanking out your mind, and you're not getting into the compulsive thoughts. You're giving space to your mind, and
Right.
after that, when you set an intention, as that's the third tool I'm talking about, you're
Mm-hmm.
intending something good to happen. For example, when you're intending about your child and you're intending good things to happen to your child, you're
Mm-hmm.
actually, in a way, again, in neurobiologically, what you're doing is you're putting those circuits to look at your child in a different way. And when you intend is like a goal which is happening. That
Right.
you're looking at a child, and you're looking at the good things to happen to your child, the good qualities of your child, and then
Mm-hmm.
you start with the affirmation. Now, what intention and affirmation is doing? Affirmation especially is, it's again trying to rewire your brain out of the negativity, because what's happened
Mm-hmm.
is that by repetition we have picked up a lot of habits which we have observed, which
Mm.
might not be that beneficial, and sometimes we realize that. For example, just a outburst on a child, and we
Yeah.
know that's not good, but that's
Mm.
happened because that has been hardwired in our brain, and therefore it needs an opposite way to in a way unlock that or remove that. And
Mm.
actually, so the one way of resetting is when you're flooding your mind with these affirmations. But when I say
Mm.
affirmations, it can't be just bland affirmations of you write something that my child is wonderful. These affirmations are actually, in a way, it's coupled with your emotion, it's coupled with your feelings, that you
Right.
really feel it, that your child is wonderful. You really feel that you're proud of your child, and irrespective of how what they're showing up currently, when you
Mm-hmm.
keep affirming that, again you
Mm-hmm.
are, in a way, sending out those energies, and you're creating, I would say, a magnetic or an energetic field which
Mm.
is conducive for your child to shape up. If I have to give an example, like this, I don't know if you're aware of this Pygmalion effect. This was an experiment conducted where a group of class teachers in a school were told that this was a group of students who had very high IQ, and they
Mm.
would perform well in their next exams. And so based on that, the teachers taught the children, and as expected, by the end of the term, the students
Mm.
did well. But what was unknown to the teachers was that these
Teachers.
children were very normal,
Mm.
randomly picked up, without any high IQ. So it was just
Mm.
the expectation of the teacher that these children were good actually made
Mm.
them look at the children in a different way, and the children showed up in a different way. So I'm,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying
Mm-hmm.
that's the power of that when you affirm, when you intend, that you can actually
Mm.
create changes through your energies and not trying to fix someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the last part of imagination, I mean,
Right.
imagination, because the thing is, as I've told you, we always think out of safety, and we think of what might go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We have been in a way, in society, we've been brought up in a way that uh, get a good job, get good education. So all that wiring, what that's happening, is actually putting children into that hamster wheel, because we've been on that
Mm.
hamster wheel where we have grown up in a certain way, and the same hamster wheel is repeating for the child. Now, unless
Mm-hmm.
we can think out of the box, and that is where
Mm-hmm.
imagination comes, that if we can first imagine, because all beautiful things that mankind as humankind has created is because of imagination. They thought something,
Absolutely.
and something happened. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the encouragement is to think outside the box and see what is possible. Then only that
Mm-hmm.
can become a reality.
Right. Right. No, I think I couldn't have put it better myself. I think you've summed it up very beautifully. The 5 tools of gratitude, meditation, intention, affirmation, and imagination, right? And I see how all 5 have a role to play. It's almost as if you cannot do one without the other, because they kind of complete the entire cycle. I
True.
see how, there have been decades and generations which focused on certain things. Like there was a time when we were told motivation is the greatest thing and you must motivate your child. And then there was a time when you said that, just accept your child for whatever they are. So each of these ideas have led to a generation being a certain way. And I feel sometimes just encouraging passion and motivation, even imagination, has its own risks. If it is not grounded in the other things, which is knowing yourself, or even gratitude, or having a certain sensitivity towards the world, which could also come from meditation. So all of these things need to come together, right?
Mm.
Because the reason I'm saying this is because I see currently so many people are chasing passion. They are chasing their passion, and they want to they want work to be passionate. Like everybody wants to turn passion into their profession, which is unrealistic. It's
True.
almost impossible for everyone to find their passion. And then so many are so disappointed, so shattered, so broken in the process of that, right? So this does seem like a very complete idea to me.
Sure.
And the
I
bit
mean,
about
yeah,
affirmations being accompanied by emotions,
yeah,
right? I
true.
think that
Very
just
much.
amplifies those affirmations, makes them stronger.
Correct.
Absolutely. This, the idea of imagination again brings me to the thought that parents often have ambitions of their own, right? They have their own imagination of what their child should be doing,
Correct.
and what success means for them, right? I was recently talking to someone who said that, my parents wanted me to become a doctor. I, I had to struggle so much to just study what I wanted to study. So, and we all are limited, especially in this country, limited by these conventional definitions, right? So when you talk about all of these things, what should this lead to for the child? Are
Yeah.
we looking at, just a development of a child? Are we also looking at, success? Because I feel sometimes parents fear that if we don't push them too hard, if we don't get them ready for the world and we don't drive them, then they will not succeed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
uh, average ban jayega
Hmm. True.
mera bacha, and that's the fear, right?
Yeah.
So, what is it that we are actually aiming towards with all of this?
Yeah. So I think in the words of of poet Khalil Gibran, he talks about that, that children. I'm not getting it properly, but he talks about that children come through you, and not from you, and we are basically in a way caretakers to ensure that, we give them that environment there, because they are own independent beings that come into existence, and
Mm,
therefore our role is basically what can we do in a way furthering their journey, but not putting our ambitions and our unfulfilled wishes on them. So I think, and that's a big challenge, because as you say, on one hand, as guardians for our children, we want to do everything for them and do the best for them. But on the other hand, it is also coming with certain pressure of, and we are not realizing that internally how is the child equipped. And so in the last part of my book, I talk about what are the 3 states that we can aim for to get children into, and if we leave them in those 3 states, probably they can find their way. And one is basically happiness. And when I say happiness, I'm talking about that this is a goal-oriented society, and we've got goals to achieve, and it's great. I mean, you have goals to achieve, and that keeps you moving further. The only question is that if we say that happiness will only come at the time when I achieve my goal, what you're saying that from the goal setting to the goal achievement, which is the bigger chunk of your time, is therefore not supposed to be happy or going or supposed to be struggling. Then we're just talking of one tipping point where you're happy, and then what happens? The next goal comes. So the thing is, what is the quality of life you are living? That if only achieving the goal is supposed to be the defining point of your life, and if we have to bring examples of successful people or people who are really passionate about what they didn't work for the so-called those accolades and the trophy. The people who found, and if India, we talk about someone like Sachin Tendulkar, we can relate to that, because he loved his game, and he put hours of practice, and that's what made him successful. But it's not the other way around. I mean, we look at one tipping point of success, and therefore now we've got these fancy ideas, and we always talk to our children about this is how you have to be successful. But if we don't tell them that the journey is what is more important for you to be successful, and you enjoy your journey, I think that's one thing. So one was happiness. The second thing is about confidence, because we can acquire skills, and we can be successful in our jobs with those skills. But the thing is that in this dynamic environment, and the pandemic has shown us that what can you do with one skill that you have learned? There has to be something more than that. Okay, and that's basically how are you able to navigate through the ups and downs of life, because it is never a case that things will always go good. And therefore, I'm talking about the 2 circuits. One is the confidence circuit, and one is the fear circuit. And how are we going to come out of this fear zone to the confidence zone? Because the moment you come to confidence zone, you can find your way out. And therefore, I think getting your child at how can I become, life will throw you in sometimes hard balls, but how do I come out of that with confidence? And the third thing is which I'm defining as a status, that of fulfillment, because fulfillment is because nowadays people are talking of only success, and it's great to have success, and conventionally success means that I've achieved something, I've aimed something, I've achieved something. But again, the same thing about now, how do I therefore be fulfilled? And fulfillment is more of a, I would say, your quality, your inner quality of assessment. How do I feel eventually? Because we've also seen that, and I think this is the words of Tony Robbins, who says that the fulfillment without success is the biggest failure. That means he's seen so many people who have succeeded but then live miserable lives. So therefore, success is not about those ticking off those things, but how do I feel eventually? And that's going to emanate from me as a person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wonderful. I'm just blown away. Happiness, confidence, not just confidence as we see it, but the confidence circuits. Because sometimes I feel, confidence can be a little shallow. It can just look like confidence, but internally you're really shaken up. You're really scared. So the confidence circuits and fulfillment, which is just a continuous process through life. Right. And even the happiness that you're talking about is not just a conditional thrill that comes out of doing something, but more just the little experiences of joy, glimmers of joy on a day-to-day basis from everything that you're doing. And I see how beautifully it's tied to the idea of meditation and gratitude, because those are also, those practices which are going to facilitate these things, right? Prepare wire your brain for all of these things. right? It's very, very interesting how all of the things that you talk about here are focused on doing, and not so, even though we started out with thinking and knowing your energy, but I think where we are now is more about practices, right?
Yes,
And I see that as like a bit of a barrier for many parents, because I don't feel that these are things we don't know, especially growing up in this country. Everybody's heard about these concepts and practices, but that's where we stop. We know it.
true,
We might even encourage our children to do it,
true.
but we don't end up practicing these ourselves, right? And again, barriers in place. So this really depends on regular practice. Would you say
Correct.
that? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think again, like whenever you want to develop any new habit, there is a practice. But the thing is, like at the end of the day, if you are able to see like where can this lead you to, because what happens
Mm,
is, as parents, we can tell children study this and this is going to lead you to be successful. Study, I mean, do this course and you'll be successful. The thing is, even if parents start getting the idea, even this is going to lead to their not just their fulfillment but the success in life,
mm-hmm.
then I think they might change the way they look at this, because typically when we are saying
Right.
prayer, we don't associate with quality of life, we don't associate with success, but when we are
Mm,
saying that if that can help you to in your worldly life, because the thing is at the end of the day we are in our physical bodies living a worldly life, and somewhere if
absolutely.
you're able to connect these concepts to your success in the worldly life,
Mm.
then probably you might think of doing it a little more seriously, and not just because it's a good thing to do, but it can actually impact your life.
Right, right. I personally really resonate with the idea of a parenting style that is infused with spirituality, because I think development needs to be holistic, and it's not holistic unless and until you have that element in it. But I know this is debatable. This is
Correct.
really each one to their own. But and since you have practiced this, so this is more like my question to you. How do you think, because I see so much influence of Eastern philosophies in
Hmm.
what you are talking about, how has that helped you as a parent?
Yeah. So one thing is, see, like the upbringing of a typical, I would say, people like from middle class family, and with upbringing of growing up where parents are actually God fearing. So in a way, that is there initially, but as you said it, like we have to look beyond that and actually try to figure out where these practices have come from and what was the reason for such practices, because at the end of the day, if there were, I mean, even scientifically, if India was so flourishing when it comes to
Mm,
astronomy and so many other things, there was some scientific basis of that. But because of the so much influence of the so-called Western culture, that somewhere we start feeling that these are the don't fit into the bucket of being modern.
right. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But I feel now that same Western culture is going and doing research on that, and they're coming with actually validation saying that this works.
mm-hmm,
So obviously, I think somewhere we have to go back to our roots and pick up those good things that has worked for us,
mm-hmm.
and it does not in a way take anything away from you. It actually helps you to
True.
live your life better.
True, true, true. Absolutely. Yeah, it does. And again, these systems are very comprehensive, very holistic. Not only ensure your physical, but even your emotional, spiritual well-being in at each step, right? And I was also thinking while you were talking about this that most of, as I was saying earlier as well, most of our mental illnesses are rooted somewhere in our early environment, in the parenting that we have got, in the relations that we have with our primary caregivers
Yeah.
and our environment. So three components, like the biology of an individual, the psychology, what they've imbibed, and the environment, which continues to influence them, combine to form any condition, mental health condition that one might have. And these things that you're talking about, they actually beautifully take care of psychology and the social aspect of those influences. So I see this as a very strong preventive style of parenting, which could take away or reduce significantly the chances of mental health conditions in adolescents and in adult life as well.
Correct,
Right.
and I think that that's really hitting the nail, because at the end of the day, our entire work is reactive when it comes to even medications and so many things. Like, it's only after the ailment has come out, then we look at how do we address that. But if we are getting into a lifestyle which is making you healthy from within, and actually making you far more empowered, then I think you are able to take all these ups and downs in stride. And even if the early part of your upbringing, of your child upbringing, or of your upbringing hasn't been as ideally as desired, but the thing is, it can be changed. I think, and I think even our brain and things like neuroplasticity has told that we can rewire our brain at any age. So it really doesn't matter. But I think what matters is that you have that intention,
Yeah.
that you decide that now is the time for me to change, and irrespective of age, and then stick to a simple practice, and then keep moving, because there is definitely hope at any time.
Mm-hmm.
The time you say, okay, I'm going to change, and you're going to back it up with action.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It does take a lot of gumption to sort of, stand your ground and say that I'm going to break the intergenerational cycles. I'm going to break what the pattern of what has happened to me and do something different for my children. But I think that courage goes a long, long way in influencing the lives and the lives to come. It's like you're setting off a positive reaction for the generations to come. Um, I think, in my head, again, I'm trying to sum up all these things. So the powers, the superpowers are your words, your thoughts, and your energy. The 5 tools are gratitude, meditation, intention, affirmations, and imagination, wonderfully, put together. And what is it that we are, what should be the outcome of all of this for our children is happiness, confidence circuits, activating those confidence circuits, and lastly, a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah, I think you have beautifully put it, and I think this
And
is
I
the
think,
gist of my book. And thanks for bringing it out here.
no, I think really being a parent is a superpower in itself. And I cannot help but quote Spider-Man here: with great power comes great responsibility. So it is our responsibility to inform ourselves as to how to do this better, how to handle this superpower better. And books like this and work like this is always, a great motivator in trying to do that.
Yeah.
We'll just pause quickly to see if there are any questions on Facebook or any other questions here. No, I think I've asked them all.
Yeah.
Right. I can't really thank you enough, Manoj, for joining us and sharing about this book. It is wonderful. Wish you all the success. And for all those watching us today, please, read the book.
Yeah.
And it has insights from so much of science and philosophy. It's really a wonderful work.
Yes. So thanks, Devasmita, for having me out here, and giving me a space to share this, because this book would be of no value unless it's shared. Because the idea of doing this book was not just about it's capturing my
Could you
thought
hold
process.
it up for us
Yes.
a little bit? Yeah.
Yes. So this is the book. It's called Awaken Your Parenting Superpowers. It is
Great.
Amazon. It is available on Amazon and Kindle and all the platforms. So the thing is that only if this is more of my experience shared out here, and what I've actually practiced, and it's a very small book. It's just 150 pages. So the thing is, like, it's crystallized, and I would say this is my way of giving back, in terms of, because I work in an organization, Ashoka, which is basically an organization of change makers, and it believes that that in this fast changing world, everyone needs to be a change maker, and we call it everyone a change maker. And as parents, we have got that power to change, because we don't just change our child, but we change society and the planet. And so therefore, parenting is a great responsibility, and something which we really we can relish, we can enjoy. There may be ups and downs, but that's life. But let's not lose track of the wonders or the joys that come with parenting.
Absolutely. Grasp the full potential of parenting, be open to learning and change, and always hold on to hope, right?
Very true. And again, I would also like to thank a platform like Mana, because I think here are those platforms which actually are enabling our journey of going in that direction of joy, of fulfillment, because otherwise sometimes it gets harder, and many people would just need that little encouragement or that guidance. And I'm really grateful for this organization that's doing amazing things. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think the synergy is just wonderful. Thank you for taking time out, Manoj, and sharing these wonderful things with us. I just want to let our audience know that this is a space for you to come ask questions. We keep bringing experts to you every Friday at 5 o'clock. So do stay tuned to this space. And if any one of you need more help, do reach out to us. You can also avail counseling sessions at a discounted price if you are attending these sessions. But otherwise, if there's any way in which we can help, please do reach out. Thank you, Manoj. Thank you, everyone
and
who's
thank you
been
everybody
watching.
exactly.
Thank you so much. See you next week.
Yeah,
Bye.